From the studios of AIIM International, this is AIIM On Air, where we explore the methods, technologies, processes, and people on the front lines of digital transformation in action. I'm your host, Kevin Craine. Welcome to the show. And I'm so pleased that you're listening to this episode of AIIM On Air, the podcast created for and dedicated to members of AIIM International and information management professionals worldwide. Today, I am so pleased to welcome Kyle McNabb to the show. Kyle is a Senior Vice President of Product Marketing at ASG Technologies. And before that, he spent several years as a Vice President at Forrester Research. He's an expert in product research, strategy, and digital transformation. Kyle McNabb, welcome to AIIM On Air. Thank you for joining us. Now, it's no secret that things have been kind of disruptive over the last several months with COVID-19 and all the disruption and really spurring a great deal of change in workflow and technology and transformation. What is your advice for business owners and executives today looking to reframe their business strategies in today's challenging marketplace?
Well, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate the opportunity. I think the main thing that I've learned over the past 25 years or so, and in my experience, we live in a highly uncertain, volatile, ambiguous world, and that's, I think, one of the biggest learnings that anyone in a senior leadership position needs to embrace. And what can they do to rethink how they respond to constant change, which has been something that I think many organizations and leaders have overlooked. They'll look at change as an instant in time. And I think really what we're learning now is if they're going to reframe their strategy, one of the first things they need to do is recognize that strategy is going to demand they, embrace a continuous response to change. And it's going to reshape how they're looking at I think the technology, the processes, and even their people of what they need to do to not just, remain in the status quo, but really embrace this notion of what they do today is likely not going to be what they do 2 months from now as things continue to change.
Yeah, the biggest success factor moving forward is the ability to manage change itself. I know AIIM members tell me constantly that managing change is a more challenging challenge than even the most complex technological strategies and implementations. But when it comes to technology and information management, what do you feel are the biggest challenges to overcome when it comes to intelligent information management?
Well, I think one thing that we see and hear from a lot of the organizations and leaders we talk to is, there's been this immediate response, given everything that's happened over the past year, to embrace a new way of working. And I don't think organizations have really come to terms with now how do they sustain and continue to empower that new way of working by making sure all their employees, their partners, their systems, their processes have access to the information that they need, while also not putting the organization at incremental risk when it comes to how they're managing and leveraging that information. I'll give you just a simple example. One thing that we've seen in the news, H&M Germany got fined over $40 million because they uncovered that they weren't managing personal information.
I saw that.
Yeah, and so they had embraced this notion of we'll let our people work the way they want to work, only to then find out that there was a whole bunch of personal information that's sitting on file shares, and that has a material risk. And I think that's one of the technology challenges that I think is going to be in the forefront of leaders coming into 2021 is now that they've embraced a new and different way of working, being able to really look closely at, well, have we put the organization at additional risk, especially when it comes to compliance, because of this new way of working, and do we really have the right amount of governance and protection on all the information that may put us at risk? I think that's one of it might be overlooked today, but I do think that's going to be one of the big challenges that will really surprise some people going into 2021 and beyond.
And indeed, the answer to the question, have we put our organization at different or increased risk? The answer is probably yes. And so you're absolutely right that is something that is quietly in the background and may indeed be a pressing concern as we move forward. But despite all the the scary stuff and the challenging stuff, the disruptive stuff. There are a great many opportunities developing today. Where do you feel the opportunities are today, and what should we do about them?
Well, I think one of the areas I think organizations and leaders could look at that compliance problem as a scary problem. It's an opportunity as well. This is presenting an opportunity for organizations and leaders to rethink a bit of, hey, we know there's going to be an ongoing evolution of the way we work with each other, the way we work with our partners, the way we work with applications and processes and systems as well. Why not take this as an opportunity to relook at how are we managing the information that we have in front of us? We've been engaged in some great conversations with organizations that have said, you know what, this is giving us the opportunity to look internally and frankly, rationalize our ecosystem of all this information that we have. And good Lord, are they able to identify, redundant repositories, redundant information stores, a whole bunch of redundant information that I think they are looking at as an opportunity to say, this information bloat is holding us back and keeping us from being as responsive as we would like to be. Let's take the opportunity to really do that internal discovery and inventory of what we have, and let's get rid of the stuff that's holding us back so that we can be more responsive. I think the opportunity for a lot of firms is really to embrace that, because I think, given what we see and hear from a lot of the organizations we talk to, those that are doing so find themselves in a better position to be more responsive. They can embrace more automation capability. They can embrace more AI as well to help them be more responsive, because they frankly cleaned up their own house and just put themselves in a better spot.
Connect with a vibrant community of information professionals as a member of AIIM. When you join, you gain access to our premium resources and much more. For more information, just go to AIIM.org/membership. That's AIIM.org/membership. Our guest today is Kyle McNabb. He is Senior Vice President of Product Marketing at ASG Technologies. Before that, he spent several years as a VP at Forrester Research. He's an expert at product research, strategy, and digital transformation. Now, Kyle, what is one technology or approach that our listeners at AIIM On Air should consider that can make a difference?
Wow, I mean, there's so many out there right now that that organizations should be looking at to help them become more responsive. I think anything that's helping with automation, be it RPA capability, be it business process management, I think these are technologies that are now really finding their path to the front of the decision tree for many organizations. But I think what's also happening as well is, with this concern around, well, we don't just want to automate, or we don't just want to, embrace this new way of working without feeling comfortable that we've got the right policy and governance behind the scenes that keep us out of trouble. I think it's not just a single, technology. I think it's a collection of technologies that let you feel more comfortable that, number one, we can empower this new way of working. Number two, we can increase our level of automation, even automating the mundane, and the tedious that the people might do using RPA and other related capability, embracing AI as well. But also, that third element of really putting in policy management, be it with content management systems or other information management tools that are out there as well, that help give everyone more the confidence that they're not just empowering their folks to work differently or empowering new ways of working, but they're doing so knowing that they put the right controls in place that will keep them out of hot water and not add more cost and more risk to the organization.
So how does ASG Technologies help with all of this?
Well, so thank you for asking. I think the first thing that we're really focused on is we're taking a policy-first approach to how we enable organizations to manage unstructured content as well as data as well. I think we've been focused on this policy-first notion for quite some time. I think it's really starting to hold true now with a lot of organizations that we talk to, where we're not just doing content management for content management's sake, or we're not just offering up digital automation for digital automation's sake. We've got those capabilities, but they are a part of a portfolio that starts first and foremost with, we know you need to have the right policy management support first. for these processes, for this information, the information that may be putting you at risk as well, define those policies and then apply them to your processes and content as you are putting it to use. That's our focus and our bias for what we want to try to solve first, knowing that we believe that if we do so, we're making senior leaders of IT and senior leaders of be it operations or lines of business feel more comfortable that they can still achieve many of the operational efficiencies that they want to gain through automation and business process management, but they can do so knowing that they're not adding more risk to the organization by exposing themselves to misuse around, be it personal information or sensitive information that may be easier to access given this new way of working.
A policy-first approach. Can you give us an example of an organization that was successful using this policy-first approach, and how did it work for them?
Well, I'll give you an example right now. I mean, we've got a large life sciences organization that is, in the midst of this pandemic. They're processing, hundreds of lab, or not hundreds, but millions of lab results on a fairly regular basis. And that explosion in volume of all this information that they are processing could put them at risk if they didn't have the right policy controls around it to make sure that as they are capturing and processing this information, they're ensuring that any PII, personally identifiable information, gets identified and redacted immediately. And so they've defined this policy-first approach by saying, look for this information. Where you see it, automatically apply redaction to it so that we know as it flows through our workflows and our processes and different people see it, we're doing what we need to do to protect ourselves from inadvertently sharing PII or exposing this out where we should not. And so that's just one example of many that we have where they can define that policy first and then apply it on the fly to how they are capturing and processing information, on a regular basis. It's giving them more confidence that they can still achieve the type of, business process throughput that they want to get, but do so in a much more confident manner.
AIIM believes information is your most important asset. Learn the skills to manage it with AIIM at AIIM.org. I am speaking with Kyle McNabb. He is a Senior Vice President of Product Marketing at ASG Technologies. You can find him at ASG.com. Now, Kyle, where can our listeners go to learn more? Is there a resource that you can suggest?
That there is. So what I would invite everyone to do, if you want to learn more, first, ASG.com. That's where we spend a lot of time and our energy putting information out for our customers in the market on what we do and how we do it differently and the successes that we have. I'd also invite people as well, if you're interested, reach out directly to me, and I'm happy to give anyone my email address as well, kyle.mcnabb@asg.com, to help in these cases. But start there. And I do think, many of the things that you are doing at AIIM, I think, are great places to go to as well to learn more about how organizations are embracing different ways of tackling, the challenge that we talked about, mitigating the risk of, this new way of working might be, or actually is, putting on top of organizations as well. But ASG.com would be my first place that I would ask people to go so you can learn more about what we are doing to help solve some pretty big challenges.
Kyle, it's been great speaking with you today. We're almost out of time, but before I let you go, one last question. What should CIOs and executives and business owners today be thinking about and strategizing for in order to be prepared for the business world in 5 years' time?
So this is a great question, because I just recently had a conversation with a couple of healthcare CIOs here in my hometown of Nashville, Tennessee. The result of that conversation was, forget looking 5 years ahead. You can't even predict what's going to happen in 6 months. So let's start talking about just how do we become more responsive to change. Yes, we'd love to have aspirational 3 to 5 year visions and plans or so on, but the practical reality today is we live in this highly volatile, ambiguous, uncertain, and complex world. Embrace it. Focus on the things that will help you embrace that change and be more responsive, while also mitigating risk, and you'll find yourself in a better position to respond to whatever, not just what is going to take place 5 years from now, but the unknowns that are going to take place in the next 6 months.
That is Kyle McNabb. Find him at ASG.com. Kyle, thank you so much for being our guest today on AIM on Air.
Thank you, Kevin.
This has been AIM on Air. Find us at aim.org. That's AIIM. I'm your host, Kevin Craine. Thanks for listening. AIM International, AIIM.org.